All right, so last week we talked about a guy named Barabbas, and we talked about how the crowd picked Barabbas over Jesus. So this week we're going to pick up in that whole trial of Jesus, and here's the thing. Let me guys just ask you this question. Did Pilate want to kill Jesus? Well, no, he did not want to kill Jesus. But let me ask you this question. Why did Pilate kill Jesus? He was afraid of people? Anything else? Why did Pilate have Jesus put to death? Because he was scared? What? Say that again? He wanted the approval of other people. And one reason why, I think it's two reasons. These two guys have a whole lot to do why Pilate put Jesus to death. And two of these guys, I'm sure you've never heard of before. No smalls. This guy is named Sejanus, and this guy is named Tiberius Caesar. And basically, the Bible says nothing about Sejanus, but he plays a major role in the death of Jesus. And this actually goes back to Roman history. And to actually let you guys know, let's look at some facts about Sejanus. Sejanus and Tiberius, here's one. In 23 AD, a fire breaks out in a theater in Pompeii, which spreads throughout the entire city. Sejanus was sent to restore the city, and did such a fine job, Tiberius had a statue of Sejanus made. So Tiberius, he's the emperor of Rome, and in one of his bigger cities, a fire breaks out, and he sends this soldier named Sejanus to go take care of the city. And Sejanus, he does such a good job that Tiberius, he makes a statue of Sejanus in that city. In 26 AD, Tiberius decided to leave Rome and rule the empire from an island called Capri. Actually, this is kind of funny, he's called the goat of Capri because he was really old. He was like 64 when he went to the island. And he leaves Sejanus in Rome to oversee things for him. Why is that fact important? This is why. Whose idea was it for Tiberius to leave Rome? Sejanus. Yeah, it was Sejanus' idea that Sejanus talked to Tiberius and he said, hey, Tiberius, I know you're getting tired of Senate life. I know you're getting tired of politics. Why don't you simply go to this island over here, and while you're at this island, you can still rule the empire and I'll be your main guy. I'll make sure everything's taken care of while you simply stay in that island. And that's exactly what Tiberius does, which leads to this fact right here. The whole reason why Sejanus wanted Tiberius gone is because he was planning to betray Tiberius. That basically, this is what was happening in Rome, that Sejanus was rising to so much power that people were saying, hey, yeah, we'll bless the name of the emperor, but we'll also bless the name of Sejanus, that they were putting the two together, and Sejanus was using all that power to overthrow Tiberius, and eventually Tiberius finds out that Sejanus is plotting against him, and this is what Tiberius does. Tiberius, he has Sejanus executed. Okay, so what year does he have him executed? It's 31 AD. And you're probably thinking, I don't care. Why does that have to do with anything? This is why this is important. Pontius Pilate. That the person that put Pontius Pilate in charge of Judea was Sejanus. So that's why Sejanus is important, because Sejanus put Pontius Pilate in power. Okay, so you have this big scene now that Sejanus, he's been executed. Pilate, he's left in Judea. He's overseeing everything that's happening. And then the Jews revolt. They send Jesus over to Pilate, and they say, we want to put him to death, which leads to this conversation right here. So after Barabbas was let go, this is what picks up in John 19, verses 12 through 16. From then on, Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, "If you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself a king opposes Caesar." So when Pilate heard these words, he's filled with great fear. Okay, so verse 12 is really important. When the Jews said, "You are not Caesar's friend," what they're basically saying is this: Pilate, you're not really Caesar's friend. You're really with Sejanus. Okay, so why is Pilate so scared in hearing those words? Because Tiberius, he is executing everyone that's associated with Sejanus, that he's going through the empire and he's fighting everyone that plotted with Sejanus and he's putting them to death. So when Pilate hears the words that the Jews are saying, "Hey, if you don't kill Jesus, we're gonna tell the emperor," and the emperor, he's already questioning Pilate's allegiance. So if he hears that Pilate doesn't put Jesus to death, he's going to suspect that Pilate was always teaming with Sejanus. So that's why Pilate gets really nervous, which brings us to this verse right here. So when Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judgment seat at a place called the Stone Pavement, and in Aramaic Gabbatha. Now it was the day of preparation of the Passover. It was about the 6th hour. He said to the Jews, "Behold your king." And they cried out, away with him, crucify him." Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" That Pilate is begging with these people. He's saying, look, I find nothing wrong with Jesus. I don't want to put him to death. But the crowd is screaming at him, "Crucify him, crucify him." And then the chief priest answered, "We have no king but Caesar." Once again, Pilate's getting scared. He's saying, if they go back to Rome, I'm a dead man. If I let Jesus go, I'm going to forfeit my own life. So what does he do in verse 16? So he delivered Jesus over to them to be crucified. That the whole point in all this is I'm saying this, that Pilate wanted to do the right thing, but the peer pressure was so great in his life that he simply gave in. That peer pressure can make you do the wrong things. That there's some of you that you would say you love Jesus, right? That you're a strong Christian here, but you find yourself in situations where you don't stand up for Christ. Why? It's not because you don't want to, it's that you really want to do the right thing, but the situation you find yourself in, that you can't win. So here's the point. Why put yourself in that situation at all? That don't put yourself in a situation where the peer pressure is going to be so great that you're going to give in and you're going to fall. That in some sense, look, you're not strong enough to save another person. That sometimes we have this idea that we have like this giant S in our chest, that we can be a superhero, that we can go save others, and Jesus never called you to save another person. Jesus called you to share the gospel with others. So what you should do, maybe you should bring the people you want to see saved, bring them in a place where there's other Christians who are shining their light with you. That don't try to be a light by yourself in the darkness, that you're much stronger together than you are separate. So just keep that in mind. And here's something else. What did Pilate want? Think about this. What did Pilate really want from life? I think we get it right here. This is an earlier conversation he has with Jesus. And this is when Pilate first meets Jesus. And this is John 18, verses 37 through 38. And this is what it says. Then Pilate said to him, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. For this purpose I was born, and for this purpose I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice." So Jesus is saying to Pilate, you say I'm a king. Yeah, I am a king, and I came into this world for a purpose. And Jesus is saying, my purpose is to share the truth with people and to offer them a better path. That Jesus is saying, hey, before I came into this world, everyone is going on this path away from God. And Jesus is saying, I came so that people would follow a different way of life. And then Pilate simply says this to him, what is truth? I think that's Pilate just being really frustrated, and he's finally being honest for the first time in his life that, okay, Pilate, he trusted politics, right? And that didn't work out for him. He trusted a guy named Sejanus, and that didn't go too well. That Pilate has political power, that he's popular, and yet he finds it empty there. That Pilate was trying to find all these avenues of truth, and it always led him empty. So then when Jesus talks about truth, when Jesus says, I can offer you a better way of life, Pilate, simply so frustrated and simply so jaded by everything he saw in life, he simply says, what's truth? Right? How is your path any different from anything else I've already followed? And the sad thing is this. For the very first time, when Pilate saw truth, because Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, that when he's confronted by truth for the very first time, he has no idea how to react to it, and he rejects it. And that might be some of you in this room right now, that you're trying to follow everything in this world and you're buying into all these lies, and Jesus says, look, I can offer you a better way of life. And instead of following him, you reject that. That Jesus would tell you this. This is what Jesus would tell you tonight. He would say this, if you can find a better path for your life outside of me, take it. That Jesus would say, if you can find more truth outside of me, take that path. But what Jesus knows is this, there is no path for your life greater than the one he has for you. That Romans chapter 12, verse 2, it says that God has a will, and God's will for your life is good, and is acceptable, and is perfect. That God has a good plan for your life, but the choice is this. Are you willing to follow him, or are you going to reject him and make your own way in life? And maybe you don't know what happened to Pilate after this. This is what happens. 6 years later, Pilate takes his own life. 6 years later, Pilate commits suicide, that he kills himself. That's a tragic end. That's sad. And here's the thing. If we can go back 6 years later and Pilate can look back at that very conversation with Jesus that he had, he would do it differently. But what did Pilate think was happening that day? Pilate said this, look, I've put thousands of Jews to death. What's one more? Pilate was simply saying, I'm simply making another choice. That's another choice. I'll make another choice tomorrow. And all these choices, what's the big deal? Eventually, all the choices Pilate made, it led to a very sad end. What choices are you making today? What choices are you making today with your life that you think are insignificant and you think they're not important, but in reality, every choice you make is leading you on a path? That's what I want you to get tonight. Is that every choice you're making is putting you on a path somewhere, Either it's putting you in a path closer to God or it's putting you in a path farther from God. That this is my last time to talk to you on a Wednesday night in 2016. And what I would just want you to think about, just honestly, just think about this. What choices are you making? That look at the life of Pilate. That Pilate made a choice. That he's confronted by Jesus. That Jesus says, look, I'm a king. And I want to show you a path of life that could really work out for you. Pilate rejected that, and Pilate said no. He said, Jesus, I'll do my own thing. You're not smarter than Pilate. You're not better than Pilate. Right? If Pilate went away from Jesus, like he couldn't figure it out, why do you think you will? Why do you think you will? That some of you buy into terrible lies, that you buy into this. You're not pretty, you're not good looking enough, or you're not tall enough, or you're not strong enough, or you're not smart enough, and you buy into all these negative views of yourself, and that's the path you're walking. And what Jesus would say is this: you don't find your self-worth in what other people say, but find your worth in me. That Jesus would say, find your worth in what I say about you. That Jesus says, don't you know you're an image bearer of God? Don't you know you reflect God's image? And that's the greatest thing you can have. That Jesus offers a better path of life. And what does that path look like? It looks like this. And what's happening here in John 19, 25 through 27, you have Jesus. He's on the cross. And while he's on the cross, this is what's happening. But standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her to his own home. So when Jesus is on the cross and he's experiencing the worst day of his life, he's hanging on the cross and he's just hanging there and he's in pain, right? And this is what's happening, right? You have all these people, they're jeering, they're making fun of him, they're mocking him, but what you don't know is that every angel in heaven, they are all looking at the cross right now, and every demon is looking at the cross right now. They're all looking at the Son of God, that everyone who matters in creation, they are all focused on this cross, that every angel, every demon, they are wondering, what is he going to say, right? What is he going to call out from the cross? Like, what's he going to say? And this is what he says: John, look out for my mom. John, make sure my mom is okay. That when Jesus was going through the most difficult time in his life, he wasn't thinking about himself, but he was thinking of others. That he wasn't making it about himself, but he was genuinely concerned about what was happening in the lives of others. That during Christmas, we can become really self-centered and we can just focus on, hey, what gifts am I going to get, right? And we can make it all about ourselves. And what Jesus is saying is this: the path I offer you is this, is that you just don't worry about yourself, but that you genuinely care for other people, that you genuinely care for others. That Jesus said this, his prayer for the church, his prayer for us as believers is that we would be together, that we would love each other. But that starts with this: are you concerned with what's happening in the person's life who sits beside you? Do you genuinely care about the people in this room? That you would say this, that's just not who I am. And this is the beautiful thing. We read this verse earlier. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Have this mind, have this way of thinking among yourselves. Why? Because it is yours in Christ Jesus. Because Jesus cared about others, and because he lives in you, if you are a Christian, that gives you the ability to care for other people. So the two things I want you to think about for this Christmas season is this. What choices are you making in life that you think really don't matter, but they are really putting you on a certain path? And who needs your help this Christmas? Who really needs your help this Christmas? That today I got a card, and I'm going to read you what the card says. God is at home in a loving heart. He lives in you. Thank you for your kindness. To all of you who volunteered your time to sing at Homewood, that was very nice that you took the time to visit us. Thank you again, residents of assisted living, that a few weeks ago, some of you guys, you went out to Homewood and you were singing for people, and they really needed that. Think about that. Your act of kindness, it really touched someone that really needed to just be reminded that someone cared about them. That when you genuinely do nice things for people, it always matters. That Jesus said this one time. He says, if you take a cup of cold water and you give it to someone that's thirsty, that matters. That Jesus would say this, the path I offer to you, a better way of life is this, is that you would really help other people. So when it comes to Christmas time, and yeah, enjoy your gifts, right? Because when you get a gift, it means someone cares about you. But don't be so wrapped up about you. But really, talk to Jesus tonight and think about this. Who in your life needs to be encouraged? Who in your life needs to be told that they're loved? You know that the worst thing will happen this week, that for 7 days this week, there will be people who will never hear the words they're loved. They will never hear the words that they're loved, and they will lash out in pain. Why is our world so messed up? Because it's people literally screaming, someone care about me. Someone care. Someone just talk to me. That a long time ago, there was this article that was being written by the New York Times, and they were asking all these philosophers, what's wrong with the world? Why is the world so messed up? And they sent this letter to all these philosophers, hey, just tell us, why is the world so screwed up right now? And they sent this one letter to a guy named G.K. Chesterton. And G.K. Chesterton, when he got that letter, he read it, and he really thought about what's messed up in the world. And he simply wrote this phrase, he wrote this back to the New York Times. This is what he wrote. What is messed up with the world? It is me. What is messed up with the world? It is me. And what he meant by that, he simply meant, I don't care enough. That if I took more time to care for other people, the world would be a better place. Because Jesus lives in you, he gives you the ability not only to love yourself, but to love others. So this is the last time I'll say it. I love you. I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad we do this together. And this Christmas, just be mindful of the choices you're making and really think about who is God placing in your life that you can encourage. So join me in prayer. And as I'm praying, we'll have the band come back up. Dear Jesus, thank you for tonight. And thank you for being our King. Thank you for offering a path of life which is better than what we can do for ourselves. I pray that we would follow truth. And truth is this, that we just don't make our lives about ourselves, but we genuinely look to the interests of others. I pray that for all the people in this room, that if we really took you serious and we really cared about each other, how great would this place be? I pray that this will be a place where people are genuinely encouraged and that they know that they're loved. Jesus, help us do a better job in following you. That the more we follow you, the more we become like you, the more that we will care and the more we just won't think about ourselves during Christmas or any other time of the year, but we'll genuinely think about others and how can we impact the lives of others. So please allow us to think about that as we sing this last song. In your name, amen.